Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about Jamestown. And the reason that we're talking about Jamestown is this is the very first permanent English settlement. It's established in 1607, and so again, it's very important. Anytime something's the first, it's pretty significant. And we have to talk about the fact that this was not only a town, it was a company. The Virginia Company is going to get a charter from the king. The reason is they look at the king and they go, there's this new world out there. There's all these new resources. If we go and we're able to harvest the resources, we're going to get rich. And when we get rich, some of that money goes into the royal coffers, the royal treasury. And so when we get rich, it benefits the crown as well. And so the king took a gamble on this. He said, yes, go and do your best. See how you can make money. See how rich you can get. If it works, you have to understand that the king's going, there's a lot of land there. And so we'll establish more and more colonies, more and more settlements, and each one of those companies, each one of those towns will be able to harvest resources, get wealthy, and funnel some of that back to us. So it has the potential to be a cash cow. Now, for everybody out there who has been taught, as I was, that this country was founded on the idea of religious freedom, I don't know why. I don't know why we're taught that, because it's not true. The foundation, Jamestown, it was all about making money. It was about profit. It had nothing to do with religious or freedom or liberty, nothing about that. It was about making money. As with most things in society and in our culture and in our politics and government, if you follow the money, you'll find out why things are happening, who's benefiting from it. Well, in this case, it's the king, it's the Virginia Company, the investors in that company. Now, don't get me wrong, the idea of religious liberty is going to come into play, but not quite yet, not at the very beginning. So we'll take a look at that in a later video. For now, what we're going to see is that these new settlers are going to land in what they're going to call Jamestown, right? Jamestown is the first settlement, again, 1607, and immediately they have to learn how to survive. How are we going to make it? This is an entirely new world. Nobody is here. Nothing is established. In their way of thinking, there's no society, no culture, no civilization. Everything is wild and untamed and untapped, and it's going to be hard, right? They have to start everything from scratch. So they've got to learn how to survive in a new climate. They've got to learn how to survive where they don't know all the plants, and some of which may be poisonous and others may be good to eat. They have to kind of discover all of that. They have to learn about the different animal life, and because it's very different, right? Or at least some of it is very different. So everything is new to them, and learning how to survive in a new area is going to be tough. Now, not only do they have to learn how to survive, they're also there with a job to do. Remember, they're being paid by the Virginia Company to turn a profit. The whole reason that they're there, the whole reason they were brought over is to make money. I don't know about you, but surviving seems to me like that can be in a situation that's as wild and untamed as this. That's a full-time job, right? That's not an easy thing to ask of people. But on top of that, now they have to find, how do we earn money? Is there gold? Is there coal? Are there things that we can use here? Are there furs? What about fishing rights, commercial fishing? What about timber, cash crops? What grows well here? What can we sell at a profit? And so they have to be of kind of two different minds. One, how do we make it? That's got to be first and foremost. And two, how do we make a profit? So it's going to be really, really hard. In fact, the settlers are going to experience, for the first 2.5 years, are going to experience what's called the starving time. That's pretty appropriately named because they didn't know what would kill them. They didn't know how difficult it was. The seasons and the climate, everything was just different, right? And so in the first 2 years alone, the population of Jamestown, about 75% of them are going to die. That is not good odds, right? That's really not good odds. Now, after a couple of years, 2.5 years, they start to get it figured out. They do so with the help of Native American tribes, and so that's always a good thing, right? But once they kind of get their feet under them, once they figured out how to survive, now we've got to kind of figure out something else. The crown goes, how do we sell that to people? How do we tell the people of England, go to Jamestown? Because you need a little bit of a critical mass. You need so many people to go to Jamestown in order to kind of spread the burden out, not only of survival, but of profiting from it, right? And so the more, you've heard the phrase, many hands make light work. We need more people in Jamestown in order to spread the workload out so that everybody can survive and everybody can thrive. Well, how do you sell that? Hey, welcome to Virginia. I mean, how do you write that brochure or that commercial? Welcome to Virginia, right? Come to Jamestown, where only a quarter of you will survive. That's not a very appealing thing. And so the Crown, instead, they decide to create what's called the Headright System. Now, I don't like monarchy. I don't really like the kings. But let's give credit where credit is due. This is brilliant. It's an incredible incentive. First, let's take a look at what it does. The Headright System awards land to three different groups of people and in what's called a headright. Each headright is 50 acres of land. So the first thing that they do is they recognize the people who have gone before and survived. So if you survive Jamestown, the Crown is going to give you 2 headrights. That's 100 acres of land. That is enormous. You are a country unto yourself. 100 acres, that's a lot of land, especially before mechanized farming when you're doing it all by hand. It's a lot of work, but it represents an enormous opportunity. Now, one thing I want to pause here and write this down if you're taking notes, because it's a mantra of my class, and that is that land equals opportunity. Great big bold letters, capital asterisk next to it, land equals opportunity. Because it does. You understand that in England, the land was all spoken for. It was not available to you or I. It wasn't available to anybody who wasn't part of the nobility, part of the royal family, the aristocracy, right? The very, very rich, the very, very wealthy, the well-born, they had access to land, but we did not, right? Normal people did not. And so for there to be so much land in the New World that the Crown was going to give it away 100 acres at a time, that's pretty significant. It's pretty telling. So the first allotment of land in the starving time, or excuse me, in the Headright System, it goes to those that survived the starving time. The next group that gets land are anybody who pays for their own passage. So if I sell a bunch of stuff, I'm going to try to make a new start. I'm going to scrounge all the money that I can get, and I'm going to pay for my own passage. Once I get to the New World, then the Crown is going to recognize my sacrifice, my efforts, by giving me 1 headright. That's 50 acres. However, it also encourages families to go because it's for every person who comes to the New World. So if I'm able to scrimp and save and sell and raise enough money to send myself, but also pay for my wife and my 2 children, well, that's 4 people. How many acres do I get? Now, all of a sudden, we're a family that has 200 acres worth of land. So it encourages family units to come together. Now, this is not an easy thing, and for many it will be a sacrifice, but it also represents a new opportunity, as we said before. Land equals opportunity. You could live 100 lifetimes in England as a poor person and never have enough money to actually own land. You just didn't have access to it. Now, this represents an enormous chance for people. It's a way to start over. It's a way to change your family tree. This is incredible. It's yours. You can do with it what you want. Now, the last group of people who are going to get headrights, and now this is really kind of an interesting thing because let's say that I've got a little bit of money. Let's say that that I see this as an opportunity, kind of getting in on the ground floor of a company. So I'm going to come over, but I've got more money. I'm a little bit more well-to-do. If you have no money, if you have no way of paying for yourself to come to the New World, you can come to me and I might generously pay for your passage. Now, if I pay for your passage, you don't get the headright. It goes to the person who paid your passage. So for every person I pay for to come to the New World, I get another 50 acres of land. So if I've got the money, it really is to my benefit to do that. Now, what do I get in return if I'm going to pay for your passage? It seems only right that there be some kind of an arrangement, some kind of an agreement here. And that's where we see what's called indentured servitude. So yes, I get that headright parcel of land, but you owe me something as well. If I pay for your passage, you're going to work for me as an indentured servitude. Now, those service terms typically lasted anywhere between 7 and 11 years, after which your debt to me is paid and you are free to do whatever you wish. Oftentimes, they would make a little money on the side. They had to work a certain number of hours a week for the person who paid their passage. But oftentimes, they spent 7 years really trying to save money and whatnot so that when their indentured servitude was over, they were able to buy a small piece of land for themselves. For some, it worked out. For a lot of people, this looked like a really good chance. It's an opportunity. Even if it's a long shot, even if it's going to be difficult, it represents an opportunity that they never would have gotten otherwise. So those are the kinds of people. There are folks who are willing to undergo that, right? That are willing to sell themselves into indentured servitude in order for a chance, right? But for many, it's a chance that really doesn't come to bear. It was very difficult. It was, life in those times in the New World, it was not easy. And so a lot of people died. A lot of people felt it was unfair. A lot of people who were indentured servants were not treated well. So it was a very tough system. Now, I guess my question to you is this: what type of person is willing to endure something called the starving time? What type of people are willing to endure indentured servitude? What kind of people are willing to risk everything to come to a new world where everything is hard, everything is dangerous, everything is difficult, where no civilization exists, again, in their minds? Man, this is not something that should be taken lightly. So who does that, right? What type of person does that? And the reality is, in my way of thinking, these are incredibly brave and often desperate people. And those are dangerous people, right? They're people who are willing to take a shot to find success. So they're looking for that opportunity and they're going to give it their all. What I love about that is that bravery, that desperation, that willingness to take a chance, to lay it all on the line. That's kind of written into our collective DNA, right? Into the nation's DNA. So I love that. Now, it's not long after that, and with the discovery of the Headright System, that tobacco is discovered. It grows really well in the climate of Virginia, and it's something that sells really well. It's in high demand in England and other parts of Europe. So finally now, not only have they figured out how to survive, now they also have something that they can sell as a cash crop, something to turn a profit on. This becomes big business, really the first big business of the American colonies. Now, not only is it going to be a big cash crop, it's going to create a necessity for even more people, more laborers. It's a labor-intensive crop to grow. And so a lot of indentured servants are going to wind up working on tobacco plantations or tobacco farms, trying to make that work. And while indentured servitude already existed, it's not long after the foundation of Jamestown, about 12 years, in 1619, the first ship arrives on what is today American soil, right, in the New World, the Jamestown colony. The first ship arrives with slaves. And so it's not even 12 years later that we see that beginning to be introduced. And now indentured servitude, which was really a pretty harsh system, it's going to go by the wayside. And we're going to start to see fewer and fewer indentured servants and more slaves. And so that is introduced. We're not going to overlook that. We have to understand that things are shifting. And so it's important for us to recognize not only, how we came to found the first town, and that it was about money and not religion, but also that not long after that, we see the very first African Americans move into the country or be brought into the country under the system of slavery. So anyway, really kind of triumphant in the fact that so many people risked everything to get here, and also very tragic in that with the success of Jamestown and the development of a cash crop, it also brought in slavery, right? Introduced slavery to the New World. So anyway, Guys, we're all done for today. The next thing we are going to look at, I'd invite you to join us. The next video is going to be about the Puritans and the Pilgrims. And so if you're interested in seeing that part of our history where we talk about the freedom of religion and religious exercise, that's where that gets brought in. So anyway, join me next time and check out any of my other videos that might interest you. Thanks for watching.